while I'm driving, I'd like to talk about I got a few emails now from foreigners who are planning to retire here about the situation if they're gonna be hiring domestic help. So, since I've discussed this before and I want to discuss it new again because there's a new ruling on how much is the minimum wage from the regional tripartite board recently for 2020 on the minimum wages for domestic help. Now, I will tell you that there is a law called the Domestic Workers Act, RA 10361, and this one is where you have to get the information of what is covered if you have domestic workers. I have to tell you that domestic workers does not include drivers. You have a family driver, that's not a domestic worker. A security guard, I thought he's gonna cross over in my front, sorry. A security guard is not included in the domestic workers. And also, if you have, the part-time domestic worker, it's not included in the Domestic Workers Act. Just clean your house once in a while. So you are not obliged for all the requirement of a proper domestic worker. Now, who are the domestic workers? They are the maids that cleans your house, the nannies for your children, the laundry woman, the people, gardeners, the people that stay in and their job is to provide comfort and service to the family. They work in your house, they stay in your house, they are actually treated as part of the family. They are called domestic helpers. Now, how much will you pay a domestic helper? Like I said, the new ruling for 2020 from the Department of Labor on the regional basis. What I mean for regional basis is, I had to just bear with me when I pause because I'm driving. I'm just telling you this. This is not scripted. I know this on the back of my head. And the regional tripartite board for the National Capital Region means the Manila, the Luzon area is now a minimum of 5,000 pesos. While here in the provinces, if you're out of the NCR, it's between 3,500 to 4,000 pesos a month, which is covering Cebu City. And aside from that, your domestic workers should also be provided a decent place to sleep and comfort. You cannot just leave them sleeping on the floors because this law protects them from that. They can go and complain on the Department of Labor. What is it doing? Okay. So you gotta have to provide the domestic needs. There's a check. Let me just get my, sorry people, but you have to bear with me because I want to discuss this. And there's a check. Wait, I got Janelle's quarantine pass. So provide a place for him to sleep, like his own quarters, and then you also have to provide food and other comforts like the shampoos, the laundry soap, and the bath soap, but not their like lotion for their facial cream. No, the basic things that they need: food, laundry, shampoos, and you have to give them at least 1 day off in a week. Or you can also agree with them that instead of taking the day off once a week, they will be having a day off. They can accumulate their day off and they can have so I've shown him Junelle's quarantine pass so I could go through, because apparently they have been so strict now. So you have to go out on the road, you should have a shield. But you have noticed when I went to the mountainside, since they have no cases of COVID there, they hardly see anyone wearing a mask. That's what someone was complaining. So going back to the Domestic Workers Act, domestic workers should be provided a comfortable place to sleep and live. You have to provide them the basic necessities like food and laundry soap, shampoo, bath soap, but for their personal hygienic needs, personal beauty needs, that's their own expense then. But it's up to you. And then another one is you have to give them at least one day off in a week. So basically, that's the thing that you need to have to think about domestic workers. And it is also required by the law that you need to have a contract of how much work they gotta do in a day, what are the work covered by him or her. Now, how old is a domestic worker? Come on, Redgar. The domestic worker, at least 15 years old, can work as a domestic worker. But if they are below 18, you need a consent from their parents that they are consenting to be working with you. And also, since they're under 18, you are also required to provide them a chance for improving their education, and the amount of work should not be hazardous or deleterious to them. So they should not be working on, like an 18-year-old maid working on something that will be dangerous to their health, their psychological something, or it's still a child. And so the amount of work that they be doing should not be hazardous to those under 18. Although if they're older as well, workers should not be exposed to, some with the cases that I have seen, that they are hired as domestic workers, but actually they are doing things like making fiberglass pots, and their wages are domestic workers. They are not actually working on a domestic environment, but they're actually working in a factory. But because your domestic workers are non-taxable, someone asked if he can deduct the wages of what he provided for himself for comfort by hiring domestic help. Can he offset it in some of the taxes? No, you cannot, because you are not a business. The very fact that you can afford those comfort of hiring domestic helpers shows that you have more than enough income for yourself. So that means you cannot be taxed on it. If you are a business and they are not domestic workers, of course they can offset the wages that you're paying on them on your business taxes. But for your personal tax, you cannot. So I would like to share my experience with helpers. It's seldom, on my experience alone, it's hard to find someone that's really trustworthy in the house. I've tried that before. When my daughter was still young, of course you need someone to assist you because you are too busy of everything. I'm building a house and I got a young child that I don't want to be bringing along with me all the time, so I need someone to watch my daughter, a nanny. And sometimes the nanny, just when the child sleeps, is sleeping more than the child, forget about the meals. So like I said, on my experience, I find it hard to have a trustworthy maid. I got a maid before that, when we first come over here, old B bring his dog from England. An English spaniel, a very big dog, and we hired this a girl to do the walking with the dog, because since we're still living in a subdivision, I don't want him to be just pooping anywhere. So that's the girl's job, is to take care of the dog mostly. But I only employed her for 2 weeks because she keeps on collapsing. And that is one thing that you are under requirement for your care, since they are working for you. Any medical care that is that's happened while they're under your employment is you are responsible to paying for it. So I was paying for her medical needs while she keeps on collapsing, and all the while the doctor told me that she's not been eating well. So I said, why are you not eating well when there's loads of food? Oh, she wants to get slim because she was hoping that she could marry a foreigner, and she was told that they like slim and long hair. And I said, you're stupid, because foreigners that just go for the looks and all that, seems like it's no good anyway in the first place. They should look at you as a person, if you're gonna be compatible together, not just about physical looks. And so her collapsing becomes more rampant that I have to get rid of her in just a couple of weeks. So, and then I got another one before. The name is Joe. Oh, she'll do anything to lure old B. Oh, wearing like skimpy skirts all around to get old B off of me. So, old B's enjoying it, I think. All the shows that she's doing, like all the cleavage, skimpy shorts, no bra. I mean, and I gotta get rid of her. And so one day I said to old B, I have 2 young maids, 2 new one. The name's Ella and Roxanne. I said, that's all right. What good name, Roxanne and Ella. So Ella and Roxanne's 18 years old. And when I introduced them to old B, so this is Roxanne, aka Roger, and this is Ella, aka Edgar. 2 gays that dresses like a woman because they're like drag queens. Has been my maid, and they're the one that stayed with me for long. They like 7 years, and I get them to school. Both of them have earned a degree on cosmetology because I sent them over to a trade school and learning the art of cosmetology. And until now, those 2, Ella and Roxanne, still communicate with me. They are now working as parlor manager. Roxanne, and Ella is just one of the parlor workers, but at least they have skills. They have diplomas that they can show, because that's another thing that you are responsible. If your maid are young, you are required to give them an opportunity to further educate themselves. Like if they don't have haven't graduated in high school, you should send them to school as a young person. And yeah, that is the most basic things that you can have to think about domestic help. So, providing food, minimum wage now is 3.5 here around Cebu City, or maybe lesser in the provinces. But providing food, providing a clean and comfortable place to live in, and also their medical needs. And if they're young, you have to make sure that you improve their future by sending them to school. And also, you gotta have to pay them SSS and Pag-ibig. So what I do with the Loy is I pay their SSS as voluntary worker, because if you pay it as an employer, it's so much hassle in the paperwork, whereas if I pay their SSS as voluntary worker, it's easier and faster. So that's what I do. You are now required to pay your SSS to your domestic workers. Although it's not, you got the law, it's not really happening. A lot of employers still not following it. But the risky thing is when these domestic workers can be influenced by someone that knows the law, because if you go in the labor offices, there are ambulance chasers there, that will lure all these domestic workers with no pay, no win, no pay. But most of the time, if there is a case of labor always win. So you just be prepared about that, because there are ambulance chasers that get on to the problem and take on the case of a domestic worker or any employees, and on a no win no pay basis, and they get commission of what they can get. So the best thing for you as a foreigner to settle down and you want those domestic workers is just to follow what's required by the law. You have a contract, even though the contract should not be followed to the literal mean, because then you have gained your trust on the domestic worker. You'll be treated like part of the family, and she won't be minding about spending more than what is required hours of her, like serving the family just like a family member, even if she's out of her hours that you have agreed. And then the day offs can be arranged. If any emergencies, you should allow her or him to go home to their provinces to sort out leaves for them to do. And these leaves that you will be giving them is also paid. So that is the most basic thing that you think about when you're hiring domestic workers here in the Philippines.